Welcome in to season 4 of The Modern Creative Woman. I am so delighted that you are here. I'm Dr. Amy Beckos, and I am your hostess on this audio creativity journey as we move into year 4. This has been such an exciting experience for me, and I have really enjoyed the opportunity to formulate my thoughts in a completely different way. In the beginning, I thought it would be so challenging to talk about art in a way that conveyed what exactly is art therapy and how art and science come together and why it matters so much. It's always been something that's just in my bones, and I never felt like I had clear language for it. And this has been a wonderful experience for being able to articulate what's actually a visual, sensory, motor experience to make art and be engaged with art. And I have a special episode today. I'm going to be answering some of your questions. And we are talking about all kinds of things, from creativity and selfishness and fear, all the way through what exactly you can do if you are feeling stuck. We will dive into a little bit more about neuroaesthetics and how you can stop overthinking and start engaging more in your own creative life. Art, of course, is a global phenomenon. It exists as far back as humanity has existed. And you, the listener, have truly demonstrated this. The podcast is heard in 114 countries or territories in over 1,200 cities around the globe. This blows my mind. I always imagine art and art therapy is a cross-cultural experience, and you've heard me talk so much about cultural humility and social justice and being able to access the arts. And it means the world to me that the global community has shown up for this podcast. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's get into this. Let's get this started. For our 159th episode, the very first one of year 4, I thought I would compile a list of questions that I often am asked and how art can support your life journey, how it can help you learn more about yourself and others, and be the kind of person that your values guide you to be. So the first question that I get quite a bit is, what exactly is art therapy and how is it different from taking art classes or just being engaged in some kind of art practice? And to that, I say art therapy is considered a mental health profession, and the World Health Organization calls art a healing, health-related practice. That being creative and being expressive allows us to grow as human beings and reach our full potential. When you think about health, it is not merely the absence of disease. It really is living in an optimal way, not just having numbers that your doctor finds acceptable on your blood test. Having a healthy life full of wellness means social, creative, spiritual, intellectual, community, family. It's so much more than just getting by or struggling through work. There are ways that art can help you with any of those problems, and that's where art therapy comes in. It's an evidence-based approach, and it looks at ways to reduce anxiety or worries and depression, and to increase the feeling of joy and happiness and meaningful engagement with whatever you're doing. And sometimes I'm asked, does everything have to have meaning? What if I'm not doing a job that allows me to reach lots of people or make some kind of important impact? To which I say, being able to pay your rent is a meaningful experience. To have a roof over my head is something I greatly appreciate. Being able to work to help pay for your family, to buy food, to go on trips, all the things that you might do with work that you're looking at as perhaps not as meaningful as you want, can be enriched through art. It's about the way you look at your experience, and the creative process allows you to see what you're doing as in the present moment and deeply meaningful. Now, art therapy is really different from an art class. Art class is focused on technique and product and outcome. The art teacher wants you to improve your skills, of course. They want you to demonstrate proficiency in the material and in what the final outcome of your drawing or your painting or sculpture is. Art therapy uses art as more of a process. It's a creative process to understand yourself. So you may or may not end up with a beautiful product at the end of art therapy. It's more about your experience in making the art. The process is most important. And what did you experience while making? Did you get in contact with the present moment? What was it like to move your hand across the paper or sculpt into the clay? The experience of then projecting onto your own artwork, having a look at it, and being able to imagine knowing more things about yourself because of the art is one of the hallmarks of art therapy. And of course, art therapists go through a lot of training. To become an art therapist, it requires 7 or more years of college, plus 2 or more years of supervised training under an apprenticeship with another art therapist. And that's the bare minimum. Many people go to school for much longer than just what I mentioned. It's a really powerful experience to become an art therapist because you're learning psychology as well as the expressive media continuum and the expressive therapies continuum as a way of understanding how clients use the art and the art process. It is not like a talk therapist or a trained talk therapist occasionally using art in their session, or even if they are an artist themselves. Studying to become an art therapist means that you're trained in the dialogue and the material of art process. I'm often asked, is art therapy evidence-based? And in fact, yes, it is. There is an abundance of evidence supporting how art therapy improves health. And it's designed in a way for studies, they're looking at specific outcomes. And art therapy has been demonstrated to work really well with adults and elders as well as kids. And it works in hospital settings, and it helps, as I mentioned before, with mental health disorders, with chronic pain, with adjusting to life stressors, grief, divorce, trauma. There are ways that art therapists work to specifically target what is the kind of pain point for someone who's showing up for therapy. Someone told me recently that they felt really creatively blocked, and they asked, why are they so blocked in their creativity? And to this, I would say, creativity is a behavior, and it means doing a thing in a creative way. Often creativity is what's called a synthetic creativity, where we take two things that didn't necessarily go together and put them together in a new way. So a creative block means that we're perhaps struggling to put things together. The first place I would look is the environment and container. Are you making a container to be creative? That might look like blocking off time on your calendar, scheduling time with an art therapist, taking an art class. It also means, is your environment set up in a way that you're more likely to reach for something creative than you are your phone? So next to my bed, I have a couple of books. I have some favorite magazines. I have my knitting. I have some cards that have inspirational quotes on them. I have all kinds of things to do. And that container, that environment, helps me not look at my phone. It helps me be creative. And so if you are leaving art supplies out, or you have a basket that you can move around your house, those are the kind of things that you can do to make your environment more hospitable to creativity. A block is really not taking action on a behavior. And so if I am feeling uninspired to write, it doesn't mean that I don't write. It means that I recognize I'm having a feeling of maybe apathy or boredom or struggling to start to sit down and write. But it doesn't mean I don't write. It just means I'm aware of the feeling, and I know for a fact I do not need motivation to start writing. I just need to start writing, and then suddenly I'm writing. I don't need motivation or inspiration to do a drawing. I just picked up my drawing supplies a little bit earlier today, and I did all kinds of things. It wasn't because I felt inspired. And as we all know, inspiration usually strikes when we're working on the art. So a block is thoughts and inaction. And choosing action towards creativity can be extremely helpful. And that container, I think, is the first place that you should start. Someone messaged me and asked, why do women seem to lose touch with their creativity? And I think there are probably as many reasons as there are women who feel like they've lost touch with their creativity. There's a lot around our life and our responsibilities that can get in the way of engaging in this creative wellness practice. And we might focus too much on work. We find that we're too tired, and we come home, we find it easier to just sit down and watch television. And that's not so much a matter of lack of energy. It doesn't take so much energy to draw, but it's a losing touch with what's important and what will nourish you. In the same way, you know that an apple will help you feel better than a Snickers bar. You can choose one over the other. So making choices can be really, really helpful. It's not so much that you must prioritize art as your number one priority, but that you make time for it every day. Another reason women lose touch with creativity is our sheer number of responsibilities. So work and rent, it requires, being able to cover our expenses. There's also, if you're a parent, there's a lot of time it takes to raise children. To be in touch with your friends and take care of friends when they need you, that takes a lot of time and energy. And all of these things are important. We sometimes lose touch of our creativity when we find ourselves doing a lot of the emotional labor in relationships, in our family or our family of origin. We end up doing a lot of emotional labor, focusing on the things that need to get done to maintain relationships, buying the holiday cards or birthday cards, or making sure that we stay in touch with people. That requires a lot of work. And again, these are important things, but it can explain why we sometimes lose touch of creativity. Hormones in midlife can cause a lot of fatigue or brain fog. And again, art therapy can help with that as well. One woman asked me if art and being creative could help for women who put everybody else first. And to this I say, yes, the actions of putting others ahead of ourselves might be socialized, conditioned, reinforced, and simply survival strategies that we never let go of. And slowing down to consider your desires is really the first step. What do you want? And if you're unsure of what you do want, You can do a little survey with your friends. What do they like to do for fun? What are their personal goals? You can read books, watch movies. You can imagine what people in paintings might desire. We have an episode where I interview a sex therapist, and we talk a lot about desire. I'll put a link to that episode with Skylar in the show notes. And if you don't know what you want, it's easy to put everyone else first. It allows you to neglect yourself and keep pretending you don't know what you want. And art can help you figure that out. Someone recently asked me if journaling can be considered art therapy. And journaling is a wonderful way to be in touch with your emotions and your thoughts and make conscious choices towards your values. And I always encourage the women that I work with to do a little writing about their art project. So in that way, I think it's incredibly helpful. I always ask people to give their art a title and write 3 words to describe it. So if you are not in the habit of that practice, anytime you make a piece of art, a title and 3 words can help you transition from the more fluid and nonverbal aspect of your experience in making the art into something that's more focused on the verbal linguistic component. And telling that story helps you integrate what you've learned from the art. It's a powerful practice. I think journaling is extremely helpful. I journal every morning separate from my writing professionally. And it's an opportunity to just download what's in my head. And I always remind myself of my values, of my word of the year. And in that way, journaling helps me orient towards the day. So it can be a part of art therapy when it's reflecting on the art, and it's a separate kind of creative practice that I think is very valuable. I've had many women I work with ask, what do the colors in my art mean? Or can you interpret this drawing for me? And an art therapist will always tell you that it's your job to do the interpreting. And we can offer observations, we can offer what's called a third hand, and that's where we'll get in and help you do the thing you're trying to do with your artwork, like an art teacher might do, but the third hand is offered in a way that invites more engagement or more emotional contact with your artwork. The meaning is deeply personal to each person, and colors mean different things in different cultures, and they mean different things to each of us. We all have a favorite color. And so working with an art therapist helps you understand and interpret your drawing, and that's a skill you can use for your entire life. Many people have been so curious about the neuropsychology of making art and what happens in the brain, what happens in our nervous system, what happens in our stress hormones. All of these have been really well documented. And our brain is fully engaged in a lot of ways. And it's very stimulating to make art. It involves our motor cortex, our visual cortex. It involves bilateral processing. So action is happening on all parts of the brain, not just what you're seeing and how you're moving. There are waves that are active in your brain that are reserved for only when you're, reading fiction books. And there's waves in your brain that are active when you're writing with a pen, not on the computer. And so the same holds true with art. Looking at art also gives you a sense of composure and calming. It's really an incredible experience. And you need to look longer than 30 seconds. Think about 2 minutes of art can really help you feel calm and engaged and curious and increase your empathy, which we need more and more of these days. Someone wrote me recently and said they feel too overwhelmed to set aside time for art. They feel so busy and so stressed. And I want to offer some research about using that O word, the overwhelm. It increases our blood pressure. Just using that language to describe ourselves stresses us out. And the research is really clear on that. It's not good for us to describe ourselves in those terms. So I suggest backing up and being more clear. That O word is really saying, I'm having a lot of feelings right now. They're all piling up. And it seems like too much. So it's time to start unpacking them. What are your feelings? What is happening? And where can you exert some more control? We always have choice about how we respond to things. We don't always have choice about what's happening around us. However, we can help ourselves tremendously by slowing down and making conscious choices of how we want to respond. And so the kindest thing you can do is speak to yourself gently and use words that are much more soothing. So instead of using the O word, you might say, oh, there's a lot going on and I'm having a lot of emotions. It's super neutral. It's true when you say that O word, but the more neutral way of describing it will give you a much more clear perspective. So I would say start with some language and start maybe with scribbles. Don't even worry about trying to make a product. Just move your hand across the paper. There's zero need to set aside an hour. If you have 1 minute, make art for 1 minute. If you have 5, do it for 5. If you've got 20, that's even better. If you could do 20 minutes a day, that's outstanding. But you don't have to commit to all that. Just in this moment right now, draw a line across a paper, give it a title, give it 3 words, and see what shows up. That moment of connecting with yourself has a ripple effect. It gives you a huge advantage over the rest of the day that you checked in with yourself for just a few moments. I also get a lot of questions about becoming an art therapist. And some people ask, do I need to be an artist to be an art therapist? And the answer is yes, you need to be a person who makes art on a regular basis. Not just an appreciator of art or you enjoyed art when you were in school. It requires of you to understand yourself through art so that you can teach that to other people. Once you understand how soothing and calming and important art is to you, going to art therapy school teaches you how to apply it and help other people. To get an education, it requires a bachelor's degree with usually a major in psychology and art, and there's a requisite number of classes, and then a master's degree, which is 2 or 3 years, plus 2 more years of an apprenticeship. It is the best decision I ever made was to become an art therapist. It took a long time to do all that, and then I got my clinical psychology degree on top of that. So the education is time consuming. The rewards are tremendous. I recently got a question about, can art therapy help me with perfectionism? And I've been writing a lot about this in my upcoming book, The Art Therapy Toolkit, because perfectionism is not a problem. It's like a disorder that's in the diagnostic and statistical manual. Perfectionism, when we're talking about it casually, is a way of thinking. And it's a wish perhaps to control things. And it's usually trying to control the impression of others so that we look good in the eyes of others. And it's challenging to look through that lens all the time. Now, it's impossible, I think, to not wonder what others might think of us. But when we're thinking about what others are thinking of us, it's just us thinking about ourselves. There is no perfection. And so art is the exact antidote to perfectionistic thinking, because there is no perfect in art. There is no right or wrong. Drawing an enso every day, which is a circle that doesn't meet. It's not closed. It's the Japanese drawing. And it's a symbol of imperfection, impermanence, fullness, vastness. So art gives us a chance to not be so judgmental of ourselves and of others, and it can really heal and soothe those perfectionistic thoughts. I love working with women in a long-term capacity. And I have a package where I work with women for a year. We commit to a year together using art and creative process to really engage in the experience that they're hoping to have. It's soothing, it's engaging, it's energizing, and it has so much to do with discovering oneself and learning how to be creative in a deeply personal way. It's difficult for me to say what problem can art solve, but it's like what gifts can art give you? That I can tell you about. The idea of being a creative person helps with our relationships to ourselves, to our loved ones, to our community, to the people, all the people around us, to our higher power. It's the added benefit of creativity that makes life rich and meaningful. A woman asked me the other day if she needs to be an artist to do art therapy and benefit. And to that I say, no, not at all. You do not need to be an artist or even engaging in art on a regular basis to understand the benefits of creativity in your life. And the making of the art in art therapy is process based. It's not about making beautiful products. It really is about using the art to understand yourself. If you're a logical person, this can be a real anecdote to the over-reliance on thoughts. Art therapy is also a way to tap into more self-love and more engagement with what you truly desire. And the final question, can art and creativity help me find meaning and purpose in life, especially when things seem so stressful and uncertain? Absolutely. And I'm sad that it feels so stressful and uncertain. The way through is to create meaning. And so you're on the right path to understanding yourself a little bit better. Meaning is something that we choose, we create, and we cultivate. And one of the core pillars that I focus on is purpose. And it's really our values, what's most important to us, and the actions that we take, the step-by-step behaviors or even goal-directed behaviors that allow us to live our values. And by shifting our perspective to engage with ourselves that way, allows us to behave in ways that show what matters to us. You've heard me say before that art is political. Art really matters. It helps us with justice and understanding and empathy. And the same works internally, that creating your own sense of meaning and purpose is done by knowing yourself. It's also a developmental stage. And Carl Jung wrote extensively about what happens in middle age and beyond. And the goal is to self-actualize, find meaning. And he also described it in this very interesting way, that we go from being focused on the concerns of the world and understanding what's happening around us to having an interest in knowing ourselves, resolving our discomforts and our unresolved anxieties and depressions. That art was the way that he learned to shift his focus internally and become the person that he most wanted to be. And I find that art and art therapy does that in such a beautiful, powerful way. It gives us the tools to create the insight. And with that insight, we can make really informed, value-based choices. That wraps up the questions that I've been getting. And if you have a question about creativity, the art and science of how to be creative, or questions about art therapy in particular, you know where to find me. There is a link in the show notes where you can message me. You can find me over on Instagram at Dr. Amy Bacos. And I always look forward to hearing from you. So This is the beginning of year 4. We get to spend another year together. I'm so excited. And I'm so grateful that you're here. This is a community built on modern creative women who are looking to learn and grow and experience the world in a more creative, authentic, and holistic way. So thank you again for being here. It is my pleasure, and I do hope to hear from you soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to speaking with you in the next episode.